Hi everybody, afternoon. For those who are joining us for the first time, my name's Ian Wildman, Mr. Wildman. I work in Greenbank Primary School, and the behind-the-scenes genius that we never get to see pictures of because he won't show his face is Chris MacDonald, who's the head teacher of Gilmore Juniors. And genuinely, without him, this wasn't going to happen. I was just doing daft little videos for the kids in my school, and they were watching a video and then doing some questions afterwards. So all the technical stuff that is happening behind the scenes is down to Chris, and he's really good at what he's doing. I'm very impressed. And once lockdown's over, I'm going to get some lessons from him so I can do it with my kids in my school on a bit more regular basis. Okay, so far we have done Maclay's Spectres stick insects. That was on Friday last week, and then this week earlier on we did scorpions. Now we didn't have a name for the scorpion, and I give a couple of little friends of mine in my school, who my colleagues' kids in Greenbank, the opportunity to name the scorpion, and apparently there was a bit of a squabble, and they weren't sure who was going to get to name it. So Harry came up with the name Rooster. So yeah, I didn't tell you that, I believe. So the scorpion's now called Rooster, and Jessica came up with Rosie, and obviously because the scorpions are male, Rosie didn't quite fit. So what we've said is on Monday when we do spiders, Jessica's going to get to pick one of the spiders that she sees, because none of them have got names here, and one of them spiders going to get called Rosie. So there you go. I don't know if Claire Murphy, I don't know whether she's watching or not, but she's got a friend of hers. This makes me feel old. It'll make you feel old as well, Chris. And I took her friend way back in the 1990s to Kingswood, Colomendy, and it's her little boy's birthday today. And I promised I'd say hi, Sam, and happy birthday, Sam. Hope you had a good day. I know it's a bit miserable being locked down and not being able to have friends around and stuff, but maybe joining in with this little bit will compensate for not getting the birthday that you really want. So happy birthday, mate. Well done. You got to 5. Great. Now you've got to get to 6, and we'll do happy birthday hopefully next time outside of the lockdown. So, playing Mantis today, we've got quite a few bits to show you, really. There's 1, 2, 4 species that are here now, but Chris has also got some video footage that I've took previously, and he's also got some photographs that I've took using a macro lens. So I'm into wildlife photography, and depending on how things go, as things develop, maybe, and we go back to school and the summer holidays come around and get into winter, might be able to do stuff so I can show you the things that I get up to where wildlife. Me and Billy do wildlife photography, the kind of things that we get up to with that. We'll see how things go. Who knows what's going to happen in the next few months in the future. So we're gonna. I think, Chris, so you're going to start off with a poll first, aren't you, to see the age group that we've got?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is a poll just to find out which year group you're in. Choices are year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, or year 5 and 6. The poll is on your screen now.
No, I'm just messaging.
So 70% of people have voted. I'm going to close the poll in about 5 seconds time. Okay, and closing the poll in 3, 2, and 1. Okay, so the results are, it's a bit more evenly spread this time round. Still, most people are in year 5 and 6, but we've got a good number of people in year 3 and 4 as well.
Brilliant. Okay. So I'm not sure. Can people type to you, Chris, as they're going along? They can't they? Maybe if kids let us know what schools that they're in, just so we have an idea of what coverage we've got as well. That would be interesting. Just because I'm hoping it's more than Greenbank and Gilmore. I'm hoping there's more schools involved, especially if there are teachers in schools now watching this and they're in a hub, just so that we get an idea of whereabouts in the world the adults and children are that we're speaking to. That would be really.
So if maybe people type which city they're in, that might help us.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with you've got some photos, Sarah. You're going to put them up first, and I'll tell people about the animals that you're putting photographs on, and the story behind them.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so that photograph there that you're looking at now, that's an animal called a ghost mantis. Now, one of the things, I was a bit tentative in introducing this, but one of the things about every single living organism on the planet is that every single one of them, including us, have got 2 different names. Okay, and we've got common names, and that would be like goldfinch, greenfinch, rook, wolf, all sorts of different common names for animals, and then you've also got a Latin name. Now, when you keep this kind of animal, things like praying mantis and stick insects and spiders, it tends to be that the people who keep them a lot, they don't use the common name as often. They're more inclined to use the Latin name for them. So the Latin name of this animal is Phylocrania paradoxa. Now, it sounds like a bit of a mouthful, that, but once you get used to how Latin names work, it's not really a big deal anymore. And the advantage of doing that is, if, for example, we were to go back to the stick insects that I first shown you, we call them Maclay's spectre, but they've also got a common name like spiny stick insect as well. So if I was to phone somebody up in a different country, say I was to phone someone in Spain, and I wanted new blood for my breeding projects, and I said to them I was looking for Maclay's spectre, or I was looking for spiny stick insect, there's more than one animal out there with the common name spiny stick insect. So that person in Spain could think I'm talking about 1 of 2 or 3 other animals, and they could send me the wrong type, or we could be talking about the wrong type. But the only animal in the world with the name Phylocrania paradoxa is that ghost mantis on your screen now. No other mantis or fish or bird or frog anywhere in the world, in all the millions of different organisms that are out there, has got that name. That's the only one with it. So if I ring somebody in Japan who doesn't even speak a lot of English, and I don't speak any Japanese, and I use the name Phylocrania paradoxa, that person will think of that mantis that you're looking at now, because it's the only one with that name. So Latin names are really, really important. They were developed by a man called Linnaeus a couple of 100 years ago. Yeah, it's a really cool thing for you to get into as well. And I know that in the curriculum, children are being encouraged now to learn Latin names of animals and plants. So, good starting point. There's a ghost mantis, and its Latin name is Phylocrania paradoxa. So, ghost mantis, along with pretty much all the mantis that you come across, really, are really heavily camouflaged. So they deliberately hide themselves away from both predators and prey in the same way that you've seen the stick insects did as well. I think Chris is going to put another one up now. Sarah, have you got the white coloured one there handy?
So I've shown 2 photos so far. We've got 2 which are brown.
Yeah, they're both ghosts. There should be white photos of white ones as well, or whitish coloured ones as well.
I haven't got those just yet. I've got the video to show, Ian, if you want.
Oh, yeah. Okay, you can put that up if you want to. Yeah, let people see that, and I'll explain through that.
Okay.
So the reason this is a video, by the way, and the reason that the ghost mantis was photographs. So that's a ghost mantis. That's it again. So that's the same animal that you've seen so far. you've seen the 2 photos of. That's a ghost mantis again. The reason you're seeing videos of these is because we don't have them anymore. They have a quite a short lifespan in the same way that stick insects do. And if you don't successfully breed them within a time scale, you eventually lose that particular species, and you have to replace them and try again. And one of the issues that you have with them is that quite often the male matures quicker than the female, and then they don't live a long time, males, after maturity. So so what can happen is if you don't get enough female animals coming through, you'll end up with all your males maturing and dying before your females are mature and ready to breed. It happens with quite a lot of the species, particularly orchid mantis, which I'm hoping that you can find that video up here. I think it's labelled up as an orchid. That's an orchid mantis now. Okay, so that's an orchid mantis. These things, they're one of the prettiest mantis you can ever wish to come across. That's an adult female. That she's much bigger than the male, and quite often with mantis, that's an immature male. That's it. So what we had was we bought in females. You can sex them. You can tell what sex they are by the number of segments on them on the abdomen. Females tend to have 6, and males have 7 or 8. And so we bought in females, and then as the females got to around about 4 or 5 months old, we then bought males about once every 6 weeks. And the idea was that we'd have females maturing at the same time that a male of the ones that we were buying in would mature, and then we could breed them. And we did successfully breed orchids, but didn't get many babies out of the ootheca. Now, the ootheca is the foam sac that the female creates, that she puts the eggs in, that then hardens. So once she's been mated, a few weeks later, she'll create this foamy. It's almost like if you've ever seen somebody fill in foam, like an expanding foam between the crack in a wall or between your window and the wall. She makes a foam like that, lays the eggs inside it, and then it goes really hard. It's almost like it ends up looking like a piece of wood. And the eggs develop in there, the babies hatch inside there, and then they'll break themselves out and release themselves into the environment that they're in. So we were successful with breeding the orchid mantis, but not in hatching babies out. And I think it might have been down to either humidity or down to the temperature in the room. I'm not 100% certain on that. We'll try again maybe next year. We were going to try this year, but lockdown stopped that from happening. That's another immature. You can tell it's immature because there's no wing cases and no wings. But you'll see that on some of the adults that we've got here in a bit. You'll see the difference between one with and one without wings. And that's a male. So that you can see the differences. He's much thinner. He's far smaller. He's about a third, maybe even a quarter of their size. So he's a tiny little thing in comparison. Which is a good thing sometimes as well in the wild, because what it means is your males aren't competing for the same food your females are feeding on. So if you've got a colony, a small colony or an area where there's plenty of mantis around, the smaller prey items in that area will be eaten by the males, and the larger prey items in that area will be eaten by the females, because the females will automatically go for a bigger prey. So there is an advantage to being a different size to the opposite gender. That's a male again. And you can see, if you look carefully there, you can see it looks like it's got 2 huge eyes. Those eyes are compound eyes in the same way that a bee's or a fly's are compound. But in between those 2 eyes, there are 3 other eyes. So mantis have 5 eyes in total. Another interesting thing about them is as well, their ear, or the thing that they sense sound with, whether you'd actually call it an ear or not, is on their chest. So it's not in the same place as you. So they're quite a bizarre creature, really. So that's an orchid again. Now I think have you got big green ones there? I think you've got a big green one. The orchid, by the way, so you've had ghost mantis is Phylocrania paradoxa. That's its Latin name. It's the only animal with that name. The orchid mantis is Hymenopterus coronata. That one is the only animal with that name. And if say I can find a big green one, say, have you got that? That one, yeah, that's so. Can you play that video? Do the people have to press it themselves? Yeah, great. So this one's called a giant shield mantis or Rhombodira basilis. They get quite big. Then they're probably about they're a good 4 inches maybe, which is about 10 centimeters long. They're quite a big animal. Both the males and females are quite big in there actually. Called a big giant shield mantis because if you look carefully, just below the head, the body flays out into like an egg shape. That's the shield. Just where I'm touching now, you can just about see. And if you look carefully on some of the pictures, and I'll show you again on some of these live animals in a second, you'll notice that the mantis's front legs have spikes on them, almost like a saw. You know, if you've seen someone using a saw to cut wood, and they have almost like spikes on a saw, like the teeth of a saw, and it uses that to grab hold of the animal that it's going to catch and kill. Hence the term, when it's sitting up, hence the term praying mantis, because it holds its arms towards its chest, ready to strike out to be able to catch whatever it is that it's going to feed on. These photos, by the way, that one there, or this video, they're taken in my. I've just put an orchid. I keep orchid plants as well. I've just put that in a window and then put the animal on the orchid and took photographs of it. They don't live on the orchids like free in the house. They have their own tanks, their own units that they live in. Yeah. I think you've got orchids. You've got. Oh, I know what you've got. You've got the one with the spiny bumps here. Have you got that? Can you find that one? I don't know if you might have a video of that one. That's the one, yeah. This is one of my favourites. So this is called Pseudocreabrota wahlbergii. That's its Latin name. And it's a spiny flower mantis. And you can see, it's doing a bit of a dance there. But you can see really clearly on that animal now. You can see as it's putting its front legs out, those spines that stick out from the bottom, from underneath the legs, that it uses like a grappling hook to grab hold of the prey item. And all the ones that you've seen so far really heavily camouflaged. They're not big animals, so you know if it was sitting on a plant somewhere, very easy for it to pretty much disappear, hide, and you're not be able to find it. Really, really well camouflaged. Okay, sir. So I think we're going to get some live ones out now. I'm going to show you what some of the live ones are like. I'm going to start off with a typical green mantis, really. Lots and lots of mantis are green. There's lots of different types, but lots of them are green. And this one here is a female. It's an adult female. Can you see it? There, okay. An adult female Asian leaf mantis. And it's difficult because when I'm looking at my own, I can see what's going on. I can see me on the telly, on the monitor there, and whatever I do is the opposite of what I'm actually doing. So when I'm doing that, I'm thinking I'm doing the other thing. So it's a bit tricky trying to get onto the camera. So yeah, so that's an Asian leaf mantis. And these things, this is a fully grown female. These things, the males are smaller and they're able to fly, and you can see. I don't know if she'll lift the wings for us. You're going to lift your wings up. Maybe no. Well, she's sitting there for a little bit. See, she's just trying to grab my finger with those grappling hooks. You might not know whether you can. Well, you can see those spikes on there or not. It doesn't hurt. It would hurt if she was going to feed. She was going to grab hold of a cricket, then she would grab and almost crush it. And then the first thing they do is bite the head off. And the reason they do that is because an animal, once you grab hold of an animal, that animal can still in effect cause you damage, especially if it's got teeth. That's better, right? Okay. So what it does is it bites the head off, and it stops the other animal, the animal that's feeding on. It stops it from being able to hurt it. So yeah, this is a giant Asian leaf mantis. And I don't know if you can see them wing cases or not. You can see, you can lift them up or not. They're quite happy to just sit on you. They're quite although I would never use the word tame really, because It probably doesn't even realise what I am. Probably thinks I'm a big branch or something. I don't know. But yeah, they're quite tame-ish things, and they will quite happily just sit on your hand and have a wander around. They're very curious as well. They're a really interesting first exotic pet for any kid who really wanted to try them out. You know, they're really interesting, intriguing, and they will sit on you for hours like this. They're quite happy to do so. Okay, just a quick question, sake, and I don't know whether you can do this or not. Just as a trial. Can anyone think why she's called a leaf mantis? Anyone able to come up with an answer for that? Why do you think she's called a leaf mantis? Hey, she jumped then. Now I don't know whether did you see her wings open out when she jumped? Can you open them again or not? She doesn't understand the word I'm saying to her, by the way. She doesn't understand English. In fact, but you all think I'm a bit strange talking to her, actually. But anyway, yeah. I'm going to put this one away, sir, and move on to the next one. Okay.
So you've got some answers to your questions, Ian. Why is it called a leaf mantis? Somebody says, William Rickard says, because it looks like a leaf.
Yeah, brilliant. It looks like a leaf. It's green, well camouflaged. Doesn't want to go back in its tank now. Thank you. I'm just going to put that loosely over there. Okay, so that's a leaf mantis. Now I'm going to show you a twig mantis. If I can find him. There he is. And this one's called Popper Spurca. That's its Latin name. So it's a twig mantis. And there it is. No points for guessing why they call that a twig mantis. The camouflage on this one is amazing. I mean, if you imagine, this is a little bit of, I have an elderberry tree in my garden. I've just cut a little bit of the elderberry off the tree, and then I've let it dry out so that I can put it in its enclosure. And you imagine if I was to put this in the middle of the entire tree, you're not going to find that in a million years, are you? Look at it, it's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's really, really clever camouflage. And this is one of Billy's favourites. Billy really likes this thing. This is an adult female again, and we just didn't get mate. You know, every time we get a particular species of mantis, we do try and mate them and reproduce. It's just a little bit tricky at times. I've got a friend who's really good at it. She's bred all sorts. She's really good at breeding them. I should have maybe got her involved in this and got her to show a few bits and bobs. And she's really successful. She breeds loads of the things. So we do try, but we couldn't even get a male for this one. We just took this as a one-off. In fact, I brought about 30 of them, I think it was, something like that. Different types of mantis from someone I know in Poland who breeds them. And he sent them over to me, and they come in the post with the postman. It takes about 4 days for them to come over. It's in a special enclosure. And he just threw this one in as a thank you for the trade I did with him. And he just said, "Oh, your Billy will love this one. Give this to your Billy. This is one of Billy's favourites. You know, it's a funny thing." And also, if it's in its enclosure, if we walk into the animal room and it's in full view, it will quickly just run around the back of this twig. It'll run around the back of the twig and hide itself. So they're funny. They are funny little things. These. Yeah, that's a twig mantis. Okay. I don't want to disturb it too much. I'm going to put it back in now. That's an adult female. And next one is still. Oh, okay. I'll do. I'm going to do these now. This is a little bit tricky. This. So when you're rearing them, this is what they call a deli cup. Mantis don't like dirty enclosures. You can't, you know. I've been in some places, I won't mention where, but I've been in some places and the enclosures are not good. They're not clean. There's not enough liquid in there for animals and things. They don't do well. Mantis do not like anything like that. They've got to be kept clean all the time. And as they're growing, because they're only small, it's easier to keep them in these deli cups. And then it's just it's a deli cup. I've got an elastic band around the lid, and this is a piece of neck curtain. because they like lots of ventilation, mantis. This when they're young, they don't need and growing up, they don't need any kind of branch at all. They're quite happy to just stick to the side of the deli cup, and it means that it's nice and quick and nice and easy to keep them really clean. And then in here we've now got this has just matured within the last couple of days really. We've got, if she'll let me get her out, an adult female flower mantis, and this, can you see it? That's an adult female. That's as big as she's going to get. She's only half the size of my thumb. Now these are a little bit more tricky to keep because getting food for them isn't as easy as it is to get. If you've got a big Asian leaf mantis or a big dead leaf mantis, they'll eat a full-grown. Did you see her fly? So you see the wings then? Come back up. She may fly off me again. Can you see her now? So yeah, do you want to move on? There you go. She actually flew onto the screen. Now she's sitting on the monitor. I'll leave it there just for a second while I explain. So yeah, easier to feed bigger mantis because it's easier to get bigger prey items really. But when they're tiny, when they come in small, and when they're fully grown, they're still quite small. Sometimes it's a bit more difficult to get food items for them. But because we keep so many spiders, we've got a whole range of sizes of food animals, from things that are no bigger than a match head really, maybe even smaller than a match head, right the way through to big Dubai roaches, which are that kind of size, fully grown. So we've got a whole range of live food that we can use to feed these creatures. You're going to come back on. There she is. So this is an adult female. Now we're really Billy bred this, by the way. So this is a second generation here of this particular species. So this is a jeweled flower mantis. That's the adult female. Now we're really lucky that we've also got, it's a bit hard for me to do this really, but hang on, give me a second. We've also got adult males. We've got 2 adult females at the moment and 2 adult males. And so there is an adult male. He's much more skinny than the female, but around about the same kind of size. Now the mantis this one came from, they mated. There's a video of them mating. Now Chris has got that video. Don't know what parents feel about the kids seeing mantis mate or not. I've no idea. Maybe if parents put a response now, or teachers in the hubs put a response now to say whether they're okay with it or not. It's a couple of seconds. They can make the kids turn their heads away if they want. I don't know. My boy watches David Attenborough constantly, so he's used to death and mating animals and stuff all over all the time. I am being very careful now because the male has flew down towards the female, and our intention was to feed her later on and then mate them to get another generation in. So I am gonna have to move them in a second. Thanks, she's run up the screen out the way. So his dad was eaten by his mum. You don't see that on the mate video. You just see the mate in a few seconds. Just a video. I thought I'll get that for our year 6s, be able to show them. But yeah, at kind of towards the end of the mating process, she turned round, she turned her head, and she got hold of him. She bit his head off, and then she ate him. After mating. So unfortunately, that's one of the hazards of being a male praying mantis is quite often your suitor will kill you and eat you. So yeah, this little boy here, if we put him in with her later on, there's a chance that he could get eaten. And the first time you see it, it's horrifying, and you think that was the worst thing I've ever done, putting those 2 things together. But 3 or 4 times down the line, you kind of get used to it happening. It doesn't happen every time. We've mated others in the past, and it's never been a problem. They mate and then they're separating, and you can pick the male up and get him out the way and keep him safe. But what I'm going to try and do now male on one finger and a female on the other, just so you can see the difference in the size and the difference in the shape. They are very similar in size, but come on, walk on. Thank you. Do us a favour, Bill. Just come and walk here onto my finger for me, please. Here's the male. She's not gone on me. Oh, yeah, she has now. That's the male there, and that's the male, sorry, and there's the female. So I don't know whether you can see that, but you can see, yeah, you can tell he's half as thick as her. She's a much thicker animal. They're called jeweled flower mantis because of these markings on the backs. Can you see them? They almost remind me a bit of jade, you know, the stone jade. Okay, I'm going to just pass this one to Billy and ask him to put the lid on for us. You put that one away, please, Bill. And then I'm going to get this one and put him in there and ask Billy to put that one away. So we've done giant leaf, we've done the flowers, we've done the stick. So now we're left with two more, and these are dead leaf mantis. Now, I'm going to start off with this one here. This is a younger animal. I'm kind of hoping that this is a young male. That's a dead leaf mantis there. Okay, we're kind of hoping it's a young male. It looks like 1, 2, 3. Might be a female, you know, Bill. We might have just been unlucky here. I might have to have a shout out online. There's other people I know who've got these that they might have a male that we'll be able to use and mate with. But this is not mature yet, so this has got another shed to do. And in the same way that, remember the stick insects and the scorpion that you've seen, in order for them to grow, because they're an invertebrate, they have to crack open their shell, or their outer, it's called an exoskeleton. So they crack open their exoskeleton and they crawl out of that. They pump themselves with oxygen, swell themselves up, and then when they harden, that's as big as they're going to be till they next shed. It's the same thing with this. This does exactly the same thing. It sheds its skin periodically. This is not mature, and you can tell it's not mature because it doesn't have wings, and the wings don't come till that final mature shed, which is when it becomes what you'd term it would be an adult. And another one that jumps. Now, the reason these are called, can anyone tell me why they call these? The common name is a dead leaf mantis. Can anyone answer that question, Chris? Why is it called dead leaf mantis?
Okay, so if you want to send your answers through the Ask a Question bit of the webinar, and I'll read the answers out as they come on in.
Okay, and then while you're doing that, I'm going to get the next one out, and this one.
So Ayan Singh says, is it called a dead leaf mantis because it looks like a dead leaf?
That's exactly why. And loads of animals, common names, will tell you quite a lot about that animal. Quite often.
Quite a few other people have said the same thing. So yeah, just to give a shout out to those people who've also answered the question. Dave Bixter, I'm guessing that's possibly Milo. Subhan Ruzak, Sharon Grady, Stan Ryan, Hannah Munn, Keris Moore. There's quite a lot of people all getting that same answer.
Yeah, quite a lot. If you think about so a duck like a mallard, it doesn't really tell you much about it. But if you think about so maybe you've got a lot of the insects that you see outside, like a ladybird spider, is a spider that looks like a ladybird. So it's given that common name. Your common name quite often tells you quite a lot about it. Now back to Latin again. Interestingly enough, some animals don't have common names. They just don't have one. And one of the most interesting ones of all is gorilla. So the Latin name of gorilla is gorilla, and we call them gorilla. So we never ever came up with a common name for that particular animal. Another one is boa constrictors. So the snake, a boa constrictor, that's its common name. Well, it's not even its common name. We're not even using a common name. That's its Latin name, but we use it as its common name. So it doesn't have two names. But obviously these things do. These are dead leaves, and these are also called Deroplatus lobata. That's their Latin name. Okay, so this is an adult female, and I'm hoping you can just about. Can you see that there's a long wing case there, and underneath there are a pair of wings. She can fly, and she will fly. They're quite good. You know, they're much better flyers than the stick insects of Friday are. Much better. And this one here is not yet mature, but on its next shed, it will develop a pair of wings. Okay. Has anyone got any questions, sir?
I've got
They're quite calm today. They're not jumping everywhere, aren't they?
Okay, we've got quite a few questions that have come on in. Okay, let's have a little look at these. Okay. So the first question is from John, and he says, how many different species of mantis are there?
About 2,300 species of mantis. Not all of them are kept in captivity, but there's quite a lot.
Next question comes from Ryan Parker. He says, why are praying mantis arms jagged?
For them to be able to catch the prey. So that's actually now, that is praying mantis mode. Can you see that? So it's in what you would call the praying position now. If it was to see a cricket or a locust or something that it would deem it suitable to eat, it would then use them arms. It would strike out, and use them arms and those spikes that you can see on it. They grab hold of the animal that they're going to feed on.
Question from Maria, who's in Greenbank, and she says, how long can they live for?
About between 12 and 18 months, really. Again, you know, it always saddens me that blokes don't get a really good look in with these things, and they don't live anywhere near as long as the females. Males have a short lifespan, whereas females they get a longer period of existence, really. So males maybe 9 to 12 months, females 18 months, maybe even to 2 years. And obviously big mantis generally take longer to, generally, did you see the flash of the wings then? They are, she's displaying her wings now, Billy. Can you see that, Bill? You can see her, she's got her wings in display now. Can you see that? So those markings on the back of her wings, if she's flashing them as though they're a pair of eyes, and that's almost, I would say, that's a big pair of eyes to see, and that's to scare off any animals. She's just had a go at my finger. She tried to pinch my finger, and she's now displaying her wings to try and scare me away. She'll settle back down again in a second. Once she realizes there's nothing to worry about, she'll put her wing cases back down again. But you can see there, that's like a pair of eyes, that, isn't it? It's almost like butterflies' wings as well. But that's
got a question. We've got a question from Evie Bamforth, and the question is: Do praying mantis run? And if they do, how fast do they run?
They can run, yeah. I mean, they're not Usain Bolt. They can run. They can move at speed, actually. She's just starting to put her wings back in now as she settles down. Yeah, I've got more crawl as well. Let's see, I'll end up on top of my head. So yeah, they can run. They can be quite quick, actually. But it's more of a kind of so they'll make a quick movement and then jump, and it's the jump gets them the distance. They can fall faster than they can run, and lots of insect species will do that. They will drop out of a tree to avoid predation, as opposed to try and run away from a predator, you know.
Okay, so here's some more questions we've got. A question from Caitlin, and it's: why does a praying mantis have long eyes?
long eyes that are compound eye. So this one doesn't have that same long eye. This one's got like a round eye, like you would expect most animals to have. It's just the orchid mantis that you've seen. It's just the particular makeup of that actual species eye. Most of them have a rounded eye like these, and a compound eye is quite a strange thing. You'd have to get if you Google it online, it's it almost looks like lots and lots and lots of tiny little eyes all glued together. So it's not, they don't see in the same way that we do. It's a different kind of vision.
Question from Maria. Why do they seem to move so slowly in the video?
That's probably video like that, as I would imagine, Sarah. I don't know, really. They're not, and the other thing is as well, they're not trying to escape from me. This one's sitting on me here. They're not trying to escape. They're just having a bit of a wander, really. So that because they're not scared, they don't think there's anything to be fearful of. They're not moving at any kind of speed. It's a jerky movement, but the jerky movement is again like the stick insects of Friday. It's so that they moved in a straight line without any kind of jerkiness at all. They'd stick out a bit more than if they allow their body to move backwards and forwards and sideways, because it starts to mimic a dead leaf. So if the wind blows, a leaf will move in the wind side to side. That's what they're doing. They're kind of making themselves move side to side so that they're mimicking a leaf.
Question from Nihan, and that is, can praying mantis be dangerous?
The big ones are probably, so the big ones that are the Hymenopteras, they're kind of like that kind of size. The grappling hooks, they could hurt if they were to clamp down and squeeze on your little finger, maybe on your fingertip. You would feel a bit of pain, you would, but then there's no venom, there's no toxic element to them at all, so they can't hurt you in the same way that the scorpion could from Tuesday.
A question from Claire Langley, which is, are the veggie praying mantis?
No, they are all predators. There's no.
A question from Dylan McCutcheon. What predators do praying mantis have?
Again, like scorpions the other day, and like stick insects, it's a hierarchy of size, really. So if you're bigger than a praying mantis and you can catch and kill it, you can eat it. And so there's lots and lots of different animals out there, including other praying mantis. They're quite fond of eating each other, so they will cannibalize each other. You can keep things like the ghost mantis, the first photo you put up, here. You can keep them together from when they hatch out of the euthyche, which is that egg case I was talking about earlier. You can keep them together for quite some time, for maybe the first 3 or 4, maybe 5 instars, so a shed is called an instar. You can keep them together for the first 3, 4, 5 of them, and then you'd start separating them because you would start getting cannibalism. Whereas there are other species that you just cannot keep them together at all. They just eat each other as soon as they get a chance.
Question from Ryan Parker.
Sorry, come on.
Question from Ryan Parker. Are praying mantis predators omnivores or herbivores?
No, they are. Are praying mantises predators?
Praying mantises predators omnivores or herbivores?
So, where they wouldn't be herbivores, because if they're eating anything at all that's not a plant, they are either an omnivore or a carnivore or a piscivore. So to be a herbivore, you just eat herbs, which are plants, any kind of plant species. So any animal that would eat a praying mantis would have to, at minimum, be an omnivore and eat both plants and animals.
A question from Dean, which is, what's the biggest praying mantis?
It's one called Herodula, which is a giant Asian species, and it's probably that big. So it's quite a big mantis. That would be full-grown locusts and full-grown Dubai roaches quite easily. The reason I keep saying locusts as well, and I remember the other day with scorpions, I was saying crickets, you don't feed, it's not good to feed mantis, particularly orchid mantis, but it's not good to feed mantis crickets. Crickets have like a bacteria in the gut, which mantis react badly to, and it can kill them. So you should avoid feeding crickets to any kind of mantis, really. Mainly orchids, but yeah, I don't feed crickets to any of them. They all get either wax moth larvae, wax moth, Dubai roaches, locusts, mealworms if I need to. And all these animals that these insects are eating are all gut loaded as well. So what that means is before we put them into feed on, to be fed on, to be eaten, it's grim, but it is what it is. We give the insect that they're going to eat a really good meal, good food. Because if you feed your food animals well, then the animal that eats it is getting a better meal than if you feed your food animals poorly. So it's really important that if you did start having things like this at home, that the animals that you feed to them are also well fed and well looked after. It's really important, yeah.
Question from Keris: what's the smallest praying mantis?
I'm not sure what species, but they are that Asian flower down there. They're tiny, but they do get really small. Perhaps, Billy, do you want to Google that? What's the smallest praying mantis and what size is it? I would imagine millimeters, tiny things.
And while we're looking up that one, question from Ian, which is how long do praying mantis live for?
Up to about 18 months. How big? 2/5 of an inch. Say that's about 4 million. 2/5 of an inch. That's tiny. That's maybe 25 millimeters. No, so it's 10 millimeters, a centimeter long. So the smallest praying mantis is a centimeter long. That's tiny. I don't know how I'd feed. I couldn't have that here. I don't know what I'd feed it.
Let's see what other questions we've got. We've got somebody here from Worcestershire.
Oh wow! Hi. Thanks for joining us.
Right, my pleasure. What colours can praying mantis be? That's from Dean.
All sorts. A lot of them are green. Quite a few of them are brown. But the most one for me, the most amazing one is orchid mantis, which can range from white all the way through to pink, and it's the most vivid, incredible pink you can imagine. If you Google, I mean, I know I've shown you some photographs, or Chris has put some photographs on of orchid mantis that we've had here, but ours weren't as pink as you can get them. Some of them, they're just amazing. They're absolutely incredible. You can really see why they're called orchid mantis, and they're like a fluorescent pink in colour, but they live on orchids. They can't live successfully really on other plants because they need to be on a white flower, basically, or a plant with a white flower for them to be able to successfully camouflage, because an orchid mantis on a green leaf will stick out like a sore thumb and be picked up by the first predatory animal in the area within, which wouldn't survive at all. So they need to be on and around white flowered or pink flowered plant species. You have to Google it. Absolutely incredible things, and readily available as well. They're a little bit tricky to keep. They're not as easy to keep as most of the other mantis, but they are just exquisite, beautiful things.
A few last quick questions. One from Hannah Munn, which is how far can a praying mantis jump?
So they can fly. So it probably, if this wanted to, I reckon it could probably fly across my living room, which is 5 meters maybe, with a bit of a push. The males are even better. The males, because they're only tiny, skinny, little light things, they'll take off and away they go. I've had them fly across the hallway, across the landing before today when I've took the lid off the net off the tank cylinder that they're in, and they've flew off across the landing. I don't know if anyone. Do you think people will be interested in seeing what I keep these in, Chris? What I'll do, I'll put this one.
So, yeah.
I'll put this one away. So we were saying about wanting to keep it clean. So they have their branch, and then they're kept in this type of jar, and that's perfectly adequate for them. That's all they need. we use tissue paper. So this is a bit of a product placement for our Alan, really, but this is a tissue paper from Costco, which is the best kitchen towel in the world. And then there's a layer of that on the floor, on the base of the cylinder, that's dampened. What it there are other people who use tanks and they put soil in and they put all sorts of plants in and stuff, but it's difficult to keep that clean. And when you've got as many as we have, time is of the essence, really. So we have several of these in a row, and we clean one, flip the animal in, clean that one, flip the animal, flip down. We'll go down the road cleaning them all, and then we have this piece of tissue on the side here, and that's sprayed daily. So we can spray through the net, and that spray, the spray will form on here, and water will run down, and the mantis will sit and drink the water off that as well. And then we have a piece of net curtain, and the piece of net curtain goes over the top of that like that, so you've got plenty of humidity, and an elastic band just to hold the net on. So of all the animals that we keep, they're probably the simplest one as far as the type of tank and setup they need. There's other stuff upstairs that they need massive water bowls, and they need certain substrates on the floor, and lots of hides and things. So there's a lot more maintenance to them. But these, because they like it so simple, they are really, really easy to look after. That's just a cylinder from IKEA, like a jar, costs about £3, I think, I don't know, £4. And then obviously, because we heat the room to 25 degrees, which is ideal for these between 25 and 30, we heat the room, then every single mantis has got this same temperature.
So one or two quick questions just before we go to our answers on our question sheet. Quick question is, how long does it take the eggs to hatch?
Sorry, sir, I'm just, there's a mantis on my back. I need to get it off. Lily's just
how long does it take the eggs to hatch?
The eggs, it depends really on the species again. So within a couple of weeks to a couple of months, and some of them it takes quite a long time really. And quite often what happens is that these animals, they will lay egg cases, and then so they'll lay them, say, in the autumn. So say the mating takes place now in May, then they'll lay in August or September. The eggs, the euthecas, won't hatch out till the following spring, and that's because of where the animal comes from. Do you remember we were talking about those lines on around the Earth? Say we have the equator. Do you remember that? I don't know. Does anyone else remember what the ones above and below were called? Quickly, can we put that one in, or there's a question, sir? We've got time.
Yeah, if you know the answer, type the answer into the question panel, and
yeah,
I will call the first correct answer.
Equator around the middle, and then above the equator and below the equator are those two lines, and inside those lines are where all the really warm countries are, and above and below it gets colder. With those lines, what's their own names? I don't know if anyone can remember from the other day we were talking about it.
So Ian Singh said the Tropic of Cancer.
Perfect. So we've got Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. If you're a mantis and you are you occur within that region, you don't really have much of an issue with cold. So your Utica could hatch out at any time and the babies would be in a warmer environment. If, on the other hand, you're a mantis and you're from above or below the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer, it's going to be cooler at certain times of the year because you're going to get 4 seasons, spring, summer, autumn and winter, as opposed to 2, which is wet and dry seasons inside the tropics. So your babies are likely, you're going to lay your eggs, you're going to lay your Uthicas, you're going to produce your egg cases or whatever it is you do, and yours are going to overwinter, and they're going to go through the winter period and hatch out the following spring, so that your babies are hatching out when all the other baby animals that you can eat hatch out. There's no point you hatching out in October, because you hatch out in October in the cold. A, it's cold, so it's not great for you, but B, most insect species have died off. There's hardly any around, so there's nothing for you to eat. But if your eggs hatch over the winter, on the other side of the winter into the spring, every other animals and butterflies are hatching out, bees are coming around, there's beetles and moths, and they're all hatching around the same kind of time. You've got this massive food supply then. to be able to sustain you, for you to be able to grow up. So it depends really where the mantis comes from.
A few more people who got that question right. James Rebecca MacDonald, Ian Singh, William Rickard, Keris Moore are all people who got that correct. So well done to them. Right, so there's been a question sheet which people may have downloaded, and I'm just going to do a quick show of our website, because here's our website, wileyswildlife.com, and if you go to that after this webinar is finished, you can sign up for our next webinar, which is on Monday and is all about spiders. But you can also click on our past webinars and you can see the recordings of our scorpions webinar and also the recording of our stick insects webinar. But there were some questions and I'll put those questions up now. So here we go. Here's the first question that Ian asked, and it's on your screen now. These particular mantis are named after the objects they resemble. What's it called when this animal does this? I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so the results are on the screen.
Wow,
96% camouflage, 4% said evolution, no one said cartooning. What's the correct answer, Ian?
Great, camouflage. Brilliant, that was really good.
Okay, here's the next question. What's a female praying mantis famous for? And we've had a couple do this here. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Correct answer was?
Killing their mates. Well done.
Here's the next question. When the female lays its eggs, it lays them in what? Looks like foam nest that hardens. What's the correct name for this? Okay, going to close this in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And there's the results.
Oh, brilliant.
And the correct answer is?
Uthaka. Well done.
They've been listening. Next question. Can you name the pink and white mantis? Is it a cat-eyed mantis, a wandering violin mantis, or an orchid mantis? Okay, closing the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What do you reckon the split is, sir?
Oh. I'd love to see 96% again, because I've only just been speaking about them, but I don't know, 70. Oh, wow, that's great. No way, every single one got it right. That's brilliant.
Okay. Here's the next question, which is what color is an Asian leaf mantis? Is it green, pink, or brown? I'm closing the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1.
Brilliant. Really good. The answer is
what's the
green.
correct answer, sir?
Green.
Green.
Brilliant.
Oh, this is going to test whether people have been listening. Bit of a difficult question, this one. And it was, how many eyes do praying mantis have? Is it 2, 7, or 5? Start voting now, please. Okay, can you close the poll? Ooh, okay. Results on screen now.
That's still really good. Again, 5 is correct. Yeah, well done.
Now this question came early on in the webinar, and it was where are praying mantises' ears found? Okay, results are on the screen.
Wow.
Split this time.
It was a bit split, yeah. It is on their chest, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Is our next one. Which is generally the biggest mantis commonly kept in captivity?
We did mention this very briefly, but we did. Oh, brilliant. I only mentioned that really briefly, sir. That was really good. 75%.
And the correct answer is?
That's really, really good. It's giant Asian mantis. Really good. Erodula.
Wow. Okay. So here we go. Here's our second to last question. It's on your screens now. How many species of praying mantis are there? Okay. Wow.
That's brilliant as well. That's really good. So it is 2,300. That's not an exact figure, by the way, sir. It's around about 2,300.
And here's our very last question.
Oh, yeah.
What film was Manny the praying mantis in? Was it in Ants, Monsters vs. Aliens, or A Bug's Life?
I didn't give you the answer to this one, by the way. I was just hoping that there's enough people watch that movie because it is really funny.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll. Right. Go on, sir. What do you reckon the split's going to be?
I'm hoping they've all watched it because it's brilliant. And if they haven't, that's your homework for Monday. Watch Bug's Life between now and Monday.
Okay, the poll's on your screen now.
Oh, brilliant, really. There must have been loads of kids who watched it. Great. I watched that Monsters v Aliens the other day with Billy. That's hilarious as well. But Bug's Life is a great film.
Okay, so what are we looking at next week, Ian? And
There's spiders. 2 o'clock on Monday. Spiders, lots of them. I mean, it's my thing really is spiders. So I've got lots of different types. But also, yeah, Monday's kind of going to be a bit nuts really. It's going to be tanks everywhere trying to get as many in the hour as we possibly can. But one we have spoken about this, Chris, and I'm just not sure I don't know how it'll go. I don't. Can people can message us on the website? Can they? They can, can't they?
So I've just sent everybody a message to say, if you've got any more questions, if you want to send us any messages, then could you email us at wileyswildlife@gmail.com.
Okay, so one thing that I can do is, obviously the spiders eat, and they eat the greedy all the time. I can do a video between now and Monday. They are due a feed. I can do a video between now and Monday, and I can take a video footage of a spider catching and subduing it to prey and then eating it. Now, I don't know how parents would feel about the kids seeing that. If the kids have, if your children have seen David Attenborough, then they'll have seen all sorts of things being munched on. If your kids watch Deadly 60, I'm sure they've seen all sorts of stuff like that. But I'm going to feed, basically. I'm going to feed, and I'm going to see this happening 150 times because I'm going to feed 150 spiders. So I can create the video. I will create the video. What I'm going to base showing it to you on is, if nobody emails to say, I don't want my child, or we don't want our school to see that happening, I'm going to show the video. If I get an email saying we'd rather you didn't show that, then I'll leave it instead. And what we'll probably do instead then say is, we could maybe put it on the website, and then if people want to go and click on play and see it themselves, that's up to themselves then, isn't it?
Yeah, and all our photos, all the photos will be put on our website, and copies of the videos we've done will be put on the website as well, so people can have a little look at them there as well. So that leaves us just to thank everyone for coming along. I hope people can email any extra questions. Any questions you email, we will answer and put on the website, and hopefully you'll be able to join us on Monday. But do go to the website, wileyswildlife.com, to register for the webinar that's all about spiders on Monday.
Yeah, and Sam, enjoy the rest of your birthday, mate. Enjoy. Take it easy. Bye, everybody.